Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Outlaws of Thunder Junction pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for Outlaws of Thunder Junction specific information to make sure you are on top of your game at your LGS. If you're looking for a deep dive into every draftable archetype and a look at all of the new and returning mechanics, check out my Archetype guide with a link in the upper right hand corner visible right now. But for those of you here for the pre-release content, whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Outlaws of Thunder Junction pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 4 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what is called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you will need to locate one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running a pre-release event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which one you would like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot. Be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit like the one on your screen now. For this set, there is only one pre-release kit that you can receive. In other sets, sometimes you have a choice, but for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we've got just the one. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you will be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside, you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Outlaws of Thunder Junction with a year stamp. And here's an example of what that card might look like using a rare from the last set, Murders at Karlov Manor. 6 Outlaws of Thunder Junction play boosters, 1 20-sided spin down die, and 1 MTG Arena code card. As many of you may be aware, draft boosters are now a thing of the past and were replaced with play boosters in the last set. This certainly threw a wrench in things when it came to drafting Karlov Manor, and it will again here, so I wanted to go over the contents of your play boosters here first. And before I even do that, I have to explain to you all of the set codes related to cards in this set. So we first have 261 cards from the quote-unquote main set, represented by the set symbol on your screen now. These cards have the expansion abbreviation of OTJ. This set also has a bonus sheet of 65 cards called Breaking News, which has the expansion abbreviation of OTP. Now I've displayed all of the 65 cards in a list here on your screen now, so feel free to pause the video if you're interested in checking them all out. These are all reprinted cards that trigger the committing a crime mechanic, and there will be one card in every play booster from the Breaking News bonus sheet. This set also has 10 special guests, just as Karlov Manor did, that will appear in a very small amount of play boosters. In fact, there's less than a 10% chance you'll get even one of these cards in your entire sealed pool, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. Now, if you thought we were done, you're wrong, because we also have 30 cards in the Big Score, which replaces the list in Thunder Junction play boosters. I've displayed a list of these 30 cards from the Big Score on your screen now, so feel free to pause the video here if you're interested in seeing all of these. You will receive a card from the Big Score in about 18% of boosters. So now I'm going to go ahead and break it all down for you one by one. Every play booster will contain a variation on the following: 5 commons from the main set, 1 slot will contain a 6th OTJ common 80% of the time, and 18% of the time you're going to get a Big Score card in this slot, and 2% of the time you're going to get a special guest card. 3 uncommons from the main set, 1 rare or mythic rare from the main set, 1 non-foil wildcard of any rarity from the main set, but it will be a rare or mythic rare only 8% of the time, 1 foil card of any rarity from the main set or the breaking news, but not from special guests or the big score, 1 breaking news card of any rarity, and this slot will be a rare or mythic rare 33% of the time, 1 land card from the main set, and 50% of the time this is going to be one of the common dual lands, 17% of the time it will be a full art basic land, and 33% of the time it will be just a regular basic land, and the last slot is a token or ad card. I hope I was able to make it as clear as it can be to be understood, but as I've said in the last few sets, I'm just the messenger here. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of an Outlaws of Thunder Junction sealed deck build, stick around until the next segment where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. This is also usually where I plug my participation in the upcoming early access event for the set. However, the newly revamped streamer event has apparently proven to be a highly exclusive event, and smaller content creators like myself and many others who previously had access prior to the budget cuts made last December by Hasbro have been completely ghosted by Wizards of the Coast this time around, and therefore, unfortunately, will not be participating. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amounts of matches for the event, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is how to build your deck, but great news! I will now go ahead and go through an entire sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you want to be looking for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. But before we do, if you do enjoy this content or any other content on the channel and would like to give back, I do have a Patreon with a link in both the description and on your screen now. For those of you that don't know, Patreon is a great way to give back to creators that provide you with content that you enjoy, and mine is no different, except for the fact that my Patreon is among the most affordable Patreons in the entire Magic community. I only have 2 tiers available for either $1 per month or $3 per month. Like, that's it. Less than a daily cup of coffee for a whole month. There's also absolutely no expectation of commitment either, as it is a come and go as you please system. You can support for 1 month and then discontinue and then rejoin later. It's completely up to you. Support on Patreon helps keep the lights on here at Daily Draft, and if you enjoy the content I make and would like to pay it forward, feel free to check it out and throw a couple bucks my way. Thanks so much for your consideration. Alright, it's time to get into this sealed deck build, and as I do, I usually get this question on most of my pre-release guides here. The website that I'm using to do this is sealeddeck.tech. That is where I have imported this pool into, as I made the pool from draftsim.com. DraftSim is a place you can practice draft and build sealed decks as well. I just think the sealeddeck.tech interface is a little bit more friendly for a video like this for creation. So we do have a generated sealed pool of Outlaws of Thunder Junction here. Now, what do we do with it? If I was at my pre-release this weekend, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by rarity, because usually your mythics and rares are going to dictate what is going to happen in your sealed pool. And look at us. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I guess. These are the breaking news cards here. You can see they're kind of like a newspaper, kind of like breaking news, this has happened or whatever. And we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we, ended up with like 10 rares and 8 breaking news and all sorts of things like that. But the rares are what we're looking at here. So we've got a land, which, sometimes is fine, but usually not great to end up with a land in your rare spot. Pariah is completely unplayable. Commandeer, also completely unplayable in my opinion. Everything else is pretty decent. And if I look here, we've got 2 copies of Stoic Sphinx, a 4-mana 5/3 flash flyer that has hexproof if you don't cast spells, which is pretty good. Blue's theme is not casting spells on your turn. And Aven Interrupter is another flash flyer that could kind of disrupt their plotting mechanic. So my mind is immediately drawn to something like this as far as rares go. We've also got Free Strider Lookout, which is a 3 mana 3/3. When you commit crimes, you get to like ramp, which is pretty good. Roxanne Starfall Savant, 5 mana 4/3. It makes meteorites. And then those meteorites tap for more mana. And Wily Duke, it goes perfectly in green-white, mounts, saddles, etc. So I'm looking at the Sphinx and the Interrupters here. I'll go ahead and pull those into the deck for the moment, just so I can keep them sorted, as I then look by color here. After I get my bombs, or close to bombs as you can find, you then want to look at what you're deep in and what you're not deep in. And the first thing I notice is red. We've only got like 10 or 9 total red cards. And as I glance through them here, I notice that none of them are really the best red cards either. So it's going to be pretty darn hard for us to play red. We do have double Jagged Barons in the fixing. Arid Archway is unplayable, don't put it in your deck. And Spire Bluff Canal. So if we did something like blue-black, if we wanted to, we could splash a couple of like these red cards, or, you know, like Terminal Agony or something, or Hypothesisal. But my mind is on blue-white, and look how deep our white is here. So I also noticed that we actually have one of each of the Signpost blue-white uncommons, which is pretty darn lucky for us as well. So, you know, one of the things I like to do when I'm building sealed pools as well is you start trying to build a deck here, and usually your intuition is correct about the first deck being the best one. I mean, there are reasons I'm pulling these things down, and usually if I spend, you know, a ton more time trying to build this, I don't end up with anything better than my first guess. So if we look at our white cards here, Journey to Nowhere is a card off the press or whatever. A nice little removal spell. Let's see. If we're going to be leaning into the don't cast spells on your turn type of thing, Prairie Dog is going to be pretty good in that respect. It's a card that cares about that. I'm going to sort this by mana value here now. Take Up the Shield is a great combat trick. Indestructible, instant speed, lifelink, all sorts of things. We do have a Holy Cow, which has Flash. 3 mana 2/2 ETBs, gain 2 life, scry 1. That leans into our don't cast a spell on our turn. Mystical Tether is the common white removal spell for the format, and you can also cast it at instant speed if you choose to pay a couple more. So that's pretty good here. Lassoed by the Law is the uncommon version of that. Comes with a token. Lassoed by the Law is pretty good. Inventive Wingsmith can get flying if you don't cast a spell. That seems fine. Outlaw Medic is a good bit of defensive speed that when it dies you draw a card, and it's got lifelink. Fierce Retribution could be okay, I guess. Ariad's Lullaby, it's a sorcery. If that were an instant, that would be pretty good. Bovine Intervention is not very good. Omenport Vigilante, 2 mana 2/2, gets double strike as long as you committed a crime. Fine. Townsfolk, whatever. Bighorn, whatever. And Supplier, whatever as well. So where do we end up in blue? We've got a Harrier Strix, 1 mana 1/1 flyer. Wish it had flash. We've got Jailbreak Spree, or Jailbreak Scheme that has Spree. Emergent Haunting at the beginning of your end step if you haven't cast a spell. Okay, it becomes a 3/3 flyer. Essence Capture counters a creature spell and gets a counter on a creature you control. Lots of instants here. Razzle Dazzler wants us to cast 2 spells. With all the instants we have, we might even be able to trigger this thing on our opponent's turn. Seize the Secrets. Wish it was an instant. Shackle Slinger whenever you cast your second spell. Daring Thunder Thief has flash. At ETB's tapped, but it does have flash. Maybe that's something we could consider here. We've got our 2 uncommons. We could splash like Hypothesis, 5 mana, draw 2. Then you can discard a non-land and it deals 4 damage to a creature if you do. That's pretty good. Maybe we find a way to splash that off of a Canal and maybe something else. This is like the base of what I would start with here. This is 19, 18 if you don't include the splash. But this is a pretty good base blue-white deck here. So in interest of time, what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to make a cut in the video, and I'm going to go ahead and try to build something different. I'm going to look through my potential green-white options, see if anything's better there. Maybe blue-black splashing or something like that. And if I come up with anything better than this, I'll show you the process of building that. If not, you're going to see a version of this deck on your screen in a moment here. Okay, so as you can see, you still see the blue-white version of the deck here on screen. I went through our green-white, and most of the white cards we would get are included in this blue-white build. We get a couple of good green cards here, but the issue is we lose both copies of Stoic Sphinx and both of our uncommons here, which go so well in this deck that I just don't think it's worth doing that. You know, even with this blue-white version of this deck, I did have to put in a couple of cards like Ariet's Lullaby and Shackle Slinger and Seize the Secrets and just things like this that I'm not thrilled to have in my deck, but you know, sometimes when it comes to sealed, you have to like just build what you've got, and you can't always have 23 completely busted cards. Usually your last 3 or 4 are going to be kind of difficult to fit in if you don't have great mana either, which we didn't have great mana because all of our splash touch red, which we just have no red. So ended up with a blue-white deck here, 23 cards, 17 lands, lots of casting spells on your opponent's turn, not casting spells on your turn. Not a lot of plot in our pool, I just realized. In fact, like hardly any. Maybe some in black. I didn't really look too deep as far as the plot. Not sure we have much at all. In fact, I don't think we have any in our deck, but we have a lot of instance and flash creatures here. Wrangler of the Damned has flash. Gem Lightfoot doesn't, but Double Stoic Sphinx does. Holy Cow does. Aven Interrupter does. We've got some counter spells, some removal on their turn as well. So this is where I would probably end up if I was playing at my local pre-release here. And that's usually the process I go through when building sealed decks. Start with the power, see what you got. If you open something like Terror of the Peaks or Gisa, that black rare, like put it in your deck, figure out a way to put it in the deck, and then go from there. We didn't open like any A+ bombs. We opened a couple really good ones though, in Sphinx and Interrupter, which is why I wanted to try to fit that in here along with our double uncommon here. So that's usually how I go. For those of you that are interested in the channel schedule for Thunder Junction, I'm going to release a premiere draft of the set every single weekday for the first 2.5 weeks of the format. So you're going to get probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week, premiere draft of the set, along with 2 more weeks, 5 days of premiere draft, and then I will switch to 3 days a week as we close out the set, as interest begins to wane in week 3, 4 plus from there. But you're still going to get at least 25 drafts of the set. Hopefully it goes as well for me as it did, as Murders at Karlov Manor did, because I ended that format with 12 trophies in 34 drafts and a 67% win percentage, and got all the way up into the high 200s of Mythic. So we're going to see if we can do that again this set. For those of you that are new, hopefully you can go ahead and subscribe and get in on that. Drop comments on videos. Let me know what you think. And let me know how you enjoy the set as it goes by for you. Hopefully you guys have a good pre-release weekend this weekend. And thanks for tuning in for the deck build. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one before, I highly recommend it. It's one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment to let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from each of you about your event. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you soon here at Daily Draft.